tearing up Clay County, that's not going to be acceptable. And if we can't handle you, you know what I'll do? I'll exercise the power and authority as the sheriff, and I'll make special deputies of every lawful gun owner in this county. And I'll deputize them for this one purpose, to stand in the gap between lawlessness and civility.
That was Clay County, Florida Sheriff Darryl Daniels, who says he's ready to enlist civilians if violent protests break out in his county. The sheriff's video comes amid the anti-police sentiments growing nationwide. Joining us to talk about it, his plan and message to the public, is Sheriff Daniels. Sheriff, thank you for coming on today's program. We appreciate it. That video, we played it when it first aired, really making waves online. How did you come up with that solution?
Well, I just wanted to convey to not only the folks in Clay County, but the rest of the country, the things that we as citizens of this United States of America, the way we feel about what we see going on. You know, there's a lot of left rhetoric going on in this country, and somebody needs to take a stand and say, enough is enough. Enough is enough tearing up our communities. Enough is enough villainizing law enforcement. At what point in this country did bad become good and good become bad? Somebody has to say, I am willing to leverage the resources at my disposal to stand in the gap between lawlessness and civility. And that's exactly what I'm sworn to do. At what point does it not make sense to certain members of society that when law enforcement swears an oath to support, protect, and defend the Constitution, yes, they have a right to peacefully demonstrate. However, when they step out from up under the umbrella of peacefulness and turn into law violators, we turn into law enforcement officers, and by God, that's what we'll do. And if I have to solicit folks who have skin in the game, who are citizens in the community, to help stand in the gap, then that's what I do.
And what does it say about the country and current state that we're living in right now that that's the case, that police officers, considered by some, are the enemy, that some officers might be fearful of going in and wearing their uniform and defending the badge and defending the communities that they serve? How did we get here?
It's a false narrative that's propagated by the mainstream media, who only shows snippets to get people charged up emotionally, and those people, you know, get emotionally hijacked and then turn into this mob of folks who lose their own individual identity and turn into unpeaceful protesters, if you will, or rioters. Rioting in the state of Florida is a third-degree felony. Rioting in most places in this country are felony acts. And for law enforcement to be afraid to enforce the law, a lot of times that comes from what's being communicated from the top. Well, in Clay County and most law enforcement organizations, we as leaders in law enforcement, we send the message down to our people, either that we will enforce these laws or that we'll acquiesce to the demonstrators. Well, to acquiesce is not lining up with what we stand for. The people of our communities, they deserve a law enforcement presence that is going to protect them. That's what they expect. Now, I understand the frustrations of some folks in society, but you can't villainize a profession because of the acts of one or two individuals. Where is that acceptable?
Right.
It's not acceptable.
Clearly, you're looking out for your officers. You want to make sure they're protected every day. In New York City, I'm afraid that some officers would not necessarily feel the same from their own mayor and leadership as well, just based on what how they've seen the budget being cut substantially by $1 billion. That's what's going on. I want to talk specifically about Clay County in Florida here. In the video, you say you want to deputize a legal gun owner here. How do you even go about doing that?
I think it would be easy. It's pretty simple. I'd call a press conference and say, hey, everybody who's a lawful gun owner, come meet me at headquarters if you want to be deputized. I guarantee you we won't have enough badges to go around. And you say, why? People would say, why would you get the regular average citizen to help? Well, you know, in state statute in Florida, there actually is language that speaks to soliciting help from the citizens to help quell rioting. It's very clear and very specific. And there's also language in state statute that speaks to special deputies and that fall under the authority of the sheriff. And those folks don't have to be trained in law enforcement tactics. They don't have to have any credentialing. They just need to be deputized. And that's something that falls under the authority of the sheriff. Well, let me ask you this question. Who has more skin in the game in a community? people who come from the outside of that community to disrupt, or folks who live in that community?
Absolutely.
Folks who live in that community.
Yep.
I live in this community. The people of this community, we have a great relationship. And what sparked this was an individual who wanted to do a peaceful protest, but he solicited some folks like Dream Defenders and Black Lives Matters to come into Clay County. Well, that's not going to fare well for those individuals who live outside of our communities, who are known to disrupt peaceful demonstrations. That's just not going to fare well for them. So they were warned, and they are duly warned.
You got to protect the people who live in those communities, as you say. Darryl Daniels, the Clay County, Florida Sheriff, thanks for coming on today's program. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
You got it.
Thank you.
Sure.